Okay, we're at the WQPH booth here with our Lady Queen of Perpetual Help and Our Lady of the Americas, and we are here with Father Jeffrey Mickler. Is it pronounced?
Down south they say Mickler, but it's Mickler.
Mickler.
We have
from the Society of St. Paul.
Yes, the Society of St. Paul is in over 30 countries, spreading the gospel through the use of media. The Daughters of St. Paul in over 50 countries doing the same work. We're both founded by Blessed James Alberione, who in 1914, as World War I erupted, he decides to found some religious congregations and tell the story of Jesus. And this wobbles my mind, using social media, which was his word.
Remember, this is 5 years ago. Radio has barely been. It doesn't really exist. Morse code is fairly new.
Right.
And he decides that he is going to use the term social media to describe the work of the Society of St. Paul.
And to tell the story of Jesus, social communications. And of course, film had just come out too. The silent movies had come out. There was radio in the press. There was not radio as we know it. There was the press, magazines and newspapers, and of course he wanted to be involved with that. But he had this divinely inspired thought. All these things we have already, and anything else that human ingenuity will come up with that has to do with social communications.
Now that's astounding, but the church actually has done social media for centuries. A lot of people forget that in the days before the printing press and in the days when literacy was uncommon, the stained glass windows and the paintings weren't just an expression of art, but they were teaching tools for the common man who could not read the Bible or wouldn't have access to one because it'd be so expensive.
Media, the arts, science, all flow from the roots of Christianity in general and Catholicism in particular. And I would love to have the artist of today do what Bach did. Whatever he wrote, whether it was religious or secular, he always put on his music for the greater honor and glory of God. The artists today put on their paintings and their music for the greater honor and glory of me. And that shows the difference. And
it's worth noting that we're still talking about Bach's music hundreds of years after his death, and a lot of the music today ends up in the 25-cent bin, exactly. if they have the bin, or sits waiting to be downloaded in vain.
One pundit said that Sundays used to belong to the church, now they belong to the NFL. But we can see this. 500 years from now, the church will still be clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, administering to the deaf, the dying, and the poor, and telling the story of Jesus, while the NFL will have disappeared into history.
I don't think it's going to take 500 years. It's becoming flag football pretty fast.
Exactly.
Now, Father, were you associated with the Society of St. Paul from the very beginning of your ordination?
Yes, I entered what they called a minor seminary, high school seminary in Buffalo, New York, Queen of Apostles, and I met Blessed Alberione in 1963.
That's the year I was born, so you've been...
Yes, and I was a junior in high school then, and I shook his hand, got to meet him. He gave us a talk in Italian, and much to my eternal regret, it was being translated by one of the priests. As a high school kid, I didn't take notes. I wish that somebody would hypnotize me and tell me what he said, but he was a remarkable man. He was only like 4'11", but a spiritual dynamo, And he founded 10 branches of the Pauline family. The Daughters of St. Paul, the Society of St. Paul, Sisters of the Good Shepherd, a whole grouping. And then for families, he had a Holy Family Institute, which we have about 350, 400 members in the States, for either married individuals, married couples, widows or widowers. There is also a group for single men and women who do not plan to be married but want to live the evangelical counsel in the world, the Institute of Our Lady of the Annunciation, the Institute of St. Gabriel the Archangel. So he founded so many ways to be a saint within the church.
And that's really one of the beauties of the church, is that all the roads lead to Jesus, but there's so many different styles of little bit of English that can be put on it. And it's as if people, we don't notice the gift of all these different styles, the gift of all these saints, each saying, come on, I will lead you to Jesus. If this curve doesn't work, we always have this curve.
There's at the center of our spirituality in a Pauline family is the title of Jesus, the Divine Master, Way, Truth, and Life, which combines the Synoptic Gospels with the Gospel of John. And the word master tends to seem master-slave, but in the spiritual East it means the master that sets you free, really free, and shows you how to enter your noble identity as a child of God the Father while being filled with the Holy Spirit.
Now, Father, what year were you ordained?
1974.
So you came in, so you first got the bug, so to speak, pre-Vatican II. You were ordained in 74. So you've seen the cultural changes that have come over the last 46 years. Amazing changes and horrible changes for many, for the most part, in many ways. As a person who's been in media this entire time, how important has the secular culture's use of media been to try and suppress the church and suppress the truth, really?
Well, I was, as a member of the Society of St. Paul, I was trained in journalism. And I'm astonished at how the journalistic profession has completely disappeared. And it's all advocacy press. Now, when I was studying it, they'd say in Europe, every newspaper would either be socialist or right-wing, and every story would be slanted. And I say, I'm so proud in America, we keep the editorials on the editorial page, and the hard news is there trying to be objective. Now I've seen that whole idea completely rejected. And the media that has the most money behind it is dead set on death. Death of marriage, have easy divorces, death of children, easy abortions, death of sick people, euthanize them, death of integrity and heroism. And it's just astonishing how far that's gone. And the attack on the church, it basically comes down to that. Because the church says it's crazy, I know, there is a right and wrong. Whoever heard of such a thing? There is a good and evil. There are objective truths. As long as the church holds to that, it'll be at the center of attack from the world as a whole.
And it's often forgotten that, as a again, you're dealing in media, but you have 2,000 years of knowledge, of wisdom, of knowing what works and what. The church has 2,000 years of practice in dealing with answering questions that people have, dealing with answering complaints, and dealing with people, because while our technology has changed in 2,000 years, human nature hasn't.
Everything that can happen to the church has already happened to it, and the church is still alive. And we think of Jesus, who had his 12 apostles. He picked them himself, he trained them for 3 years, and still Judas dumped him for a handful of coins. And you got to remember, Judas not only heard the message of Jesus, Judas cast out devils. Judas healed the sick. Judas saw Jesus walking on water and calming storms. And Judas still dumped the Lord for material gain. That is simply astonishing. So Jesus had a 1 in 12 failure rate with his apostles. And the other apostles, all human beings, all of them abandoned Jesus at Calvary, except of course for John And John didn't do it because John was attached to Our Lady. He wouldn't let Mary go up that hill alone, and because of that, he stuck with Jesus to the end and had that glorious reward, you know, to hold her mother.
I confess to say, in my 50 plus years, it hasn't occurred to me that that is the best argument for Our Lady being efficacious, because you know, the only apostle who stuck with the Lord during the crucifixion was the one who stuck with Our Lady.
Exactly.
And that's a very big lesson.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful. And Jesus rewarded them both with a very deep spiritual union. And that's why Mary is mother of the church as well as mother of each one of us. In the Society of St. Paul, our title for Mary, there's so many beautiful titles, is Mary, Queen of Apostles. You know, with Mary watching over the church, watching over the leadership of the church, watching over all of the members of the church, and urging us to do one thing: go and tell the story of her son and live according to his values.
Okay, we are talking with Father Jeffrey Mickler. We're going to be back in just one moment for the second part of our interview.